you will see on the right-hand side a banner with a UFO on it, and it has, well, it's linked up. You click on that banner, it'll take you over to the website for your purchases of these fantastic bumper stickers, these masks, and, well, everything your little heart desires. It's all right there. So go on over to thelastfrequency.com and click on that banner.
You're listening to the VARA Network. Hey, frequencies of all walks of life. Keep up with all things TLF Radio by joining our mailing list. Go to the bottom of the homepage and fill in the form. You'll get everything from guest info and show info and other important station-related information. So sign up now.
Frequencies around the world. Listen up. The shop is here, and you can order TLF Radio swag right now and show your friends and neighbors you're awake by wearing one of our many shirts, including our Let's Go Brandon shirt. That one is a hot seller, so get yours while supplies last. We have coffee mugs, clocks, so never miss your favorite shows, books, mouse pads. Just go to thelastfrequency.com and click the shop link. That's thelastfrequency.com and get to shopping.
A lot of people are concerned about the future. Join the club. Global problems are having local consequences. Too many of them. Take food shortages, for instance. Supply chains could break down at any moment, as we've all learned the hard way. That means now is the time to get yourself some emergency food from our good friends at My Patriot Supply. They're America's largest preparedness company with millions of happy, well-prepared customers. Their food lasts for up to 25 years in storage. It's an insurance policy you can eat. When you need it, it will be there. Those who know what's coming are using today to prepare. Click on the banner on our website at www.lastfrequency.com and just click on that My Patriot Supply banner and get yourself prepared for whatever may come.
The search is over. You found us. You're listening to The Last Frequency.
Timber! Timber! Live now, Timber! 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 Live now, Timber! 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 What was that? Well, I don't know, man. Timber!
And welcome back to this Supernatural Realm right here on the VARA Radio Network. We got a special guest tonight. His name is Samuel Chong. Damon, would you like to introduce Samuel and tell the audience what he's all about, what his bio is?
Sure. Hi, Samuel. Welcome to the radio show tonight. We have Samuel Chong with us tonight. He is a practicing lawyer in California, linguist, translator, a man that has a very great interest in a lot of different topics, metaphysical law, ancient civilizations, extraterrestrials. He's also emphasizing a book by the late Michel de Marquette called The Theobu Prophecy. It was first published as The Abduction to the Ninth Planet. Believing is not enough. You need to know. I think it's an interesting quote, actually, to start with. What is it exactly? What is the premise of that book, Sam, that Michelle was trying to emphasize that we, quote, need to know as opposed to believe?
Is saying that there are a lot of facts or interesting things that are so out there that most people just wouldn't believe them. It's okay if you don't believe them, but you need to know whether you believe it or not, because those are going to be very helpful for you when you are making decisions in your future. So the book actually reveals a lot of those things that may be helpful to us.
What would you say the primary premise of the book or the primary message is, if you had to summarize it as we go forward to unpack some of this?
Well, we human beings, as well as the ETs on different planets, were all creations or created by the creator originally. So when the creator created every one of us, it inserted a tiny portion of itself to each one of us. So when we have challenges, we should look inside for answers and not rely on different religions or the government or the media. And technology is also pushing us to into a more materialistic world. We should focus more on developing our spirituality instead of materialism.
Samuel, can anybody be abducted and taken on board a ship, or is that someone have a special blood type?
Well, it really depends on how many reincarnations you have had in your past lives. Michelle had 80 past lives before he was taken, and Enoch was also taken by God or Theobans or Jehovah's, and he was a very interesting person as well. So it really depends on how far you are on your incarnations.
Now, reincarnative philosophy, if you will, is interesting to me. Where are we pulling? Where are the sources? I know if you look at the religions of the world, your three primary monotheistic religions and your Eastern religions, your polytheistic religions, they all seem. It seems to be that reincarnation law is ubiquitous. If you unpack some of the more occulted findings in the literature, but what is the general gist of that, or what have you come to understand with your own investigations?
Is that through different reincarnations, we learn different spiritual lessons. So we have to experience everything. We have to become a beggar on street or the richest person in the world in order to learn the different lessons in the different reincarnations we will have. So different reincarnations are just like different positions on a wheel. What goes up has to come down, and it's just that the different spiritual lessons that are going to make us more wholesome in the spiritual journey, so that we can elevate ourselves to a different category or different level of planet that we are going to be living on. So it's a way to learn, and the creator experiences everything through us, the physical body, because the creator is a pure spirit. It doesn't have any physical bodies. So it has to experience what we experience in order to have this kind of overall understanding of physical experiences.
How many times? How can you tell if someone's an old soul or a young soul?
If someone understands the concept of reincarnation and believes that there's life after death, and also believes that there are other beings or intelligent entities outside of Earth, then it is very likely that that person is an old soul, someone who has had past reincarnations. If someone only believes in what the textbooks say, for example, doesn't believe anything about the auras or human energy fields, only believe in the Western or conventional medicine, then that person may be a young soul. So you have to be able to understand that there are different kinds of people out there. Some are more experienced who have past lives, and some are newer souls who just wouldn't believe anything the ancient scriptures say.
Would it be fair to say that if one were to aspire towards evolving from a spiritual perspective, that in fact the goal, in a sense, would be to transcend reincarnation altogether? That is, not to continually reincarnate, but to go beyond that to the point where you essentially approximate source, so to speak, or God.
Exactly. So after going through all the different reincarnations, you improve your spiritual awareness and development. You refine yourself spiritually, and then you can move up the ladder, going on and live on a more advanced planet in which you won't be able to die anymore. And then on that planet, for example, Theoba, you can join and rejoin the creator, the pure spirit, who doesn't have a face, doesn't have a physical body, and that's the ultimate goal, which is to join and rejoin the creator.
Why was it originally called the ninth planet?
Good question.
Because there are different categories of planets in the universe. We people on Earth are living on category 1 planet, which is the lowest category. And the Theubans, the Jehovans, they live on category 9 planet, the highest category in the universe. They are just like college professors. We are just like elementary school students learning the basics. Their role is to guide us and mentor us, sometimes intervene directly or indirectly, to help us to grow on the right path. So the Greeks are also category 1 planet inhabitants. So if their focus attention on the reversed engineering of the crash UAPs or UFOs, that in essence we are learning from the people on category 1 planet, which is not very advanced. So I think we should look up to the category 9 planet inhabitants.
So is there? I guess I should, out of curiosity, from a personal perspective, what do you do in terms of any type of a practice that you could share with us to work on yourself in terms of evolving your own soul? Like, are there any suggestions you could give the audience?
One is be seekers of knowledge, seek for spiritual knowledge, ways to develop your spirituality. One of the best ways is to learn what Christ really taught us about compassion, about love, about being like not too proud or being arrogant, and be
Humble.
humble. Yeah, be humble. And then also the second, the most important thing is to meditate, to quiet your mind down, and to really let everything go, realizing that everything that we experience and all the challenges are just problems to solve. The most important thing is how you respond to the challenges, and not the challenges themselves. And so that way you can really find the right solution or right response to the challenges that you face. It's through meditation.
Samuel, is grounding and maybe listening to oral beats, is that important too as well? Is it for your spiritual growth?
I think paying attention to colors is actually a good way, and also be alert to all the changes in the environment is something that's going to be helpful. Listening to the beats, I think it may be helpful, but it really depends on the individual. But the book really warns about noise, certain noise which will damage the astral body of a person, and it will take a few generations or a few reincarnations to repair those.
So when do you get a sense in your early life that you're wanting to look into these more esoteric, occulted themes and philosophies and so on? Were you a really young child? Did it happen over in China? Did it happen when you got to the United States? Was it a particular book or a particular religious disposition or philosophy that you encountered that kind of led you to all this? Or what's your personal development in that regard?
Yeah, that's when I was in China, when I was very, very young, looking at the cartoons of fairy tales, in which there are messages sent by people who appear to be gods or goddesses. And I wanted to know what kind of messages they sent us so that we can learn from them. And also back in China, there was a UFO magazine that talks about the encounter in which an engineer was taken by the ETs onto their spacecraft. And he was told that even though Einstein laid the 3 fundamental principles in modern physics, he made a small mistake. So that's why we think we cannot cross the light barrier. or travel at the speed faster than speed of light. So I was thinking if the ETs can come and visit us, they must have advanced knowledge and technologies. We can just learn from them. So that got my attention. So I began to focus on the accounts or stories or books written by ET contactees.
Oh, okay. So it sounds like you had pretty much a westernized influence, even though you were in China. Do you feel that there's value in attempting to have the two sides of the coin kind of come into Congress with regards to Western and Eastern notions of religious and philosophical dispositions? I've always found that both seem to have value on this planet. And I don't necessarily know that one's superior over the other. I think that they both kind of have an equi import in terms of their value. What's your opinion with regards to that?
I think both Eastern and Western religions, they talk about being nice to each other, being compassionate and loving to each other. I think the differences between the Eastern and Western religions lies in the concept of reincarnation. In China, people or India, people believe in reincarnations. But here in the US, people don't normally talk about it because the Bible doesn't talk about it. But if you read this book, The Yoga Prophecy, you're going to realize that early Christians, some of them believed in reincarnations. And there are scientific researches done on reincarnations. It's just that the concept of reincarnation was later removed from the Bible. And the book talks about which Catholic Church Council meetings intentionally distorted the original ancient scriptures of the Bible. So I think that's the main difference.
Okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense, because if you go back to the Gnostics, the Nag Hammadi, the various gospels that were precluded from the masses as time went on, that tends to make a lot of sense. Especially, I think of the Gospel of Thomas, and particularly in the notion of the goal is to make two one, so to speak. Which kind of makes sense, which leads me to the notion of an androgyne, or tending to find common ground between the polarities in general, which is an interesting concept, because as you know, as you approximate that, you kind of you transcend the poles and you become one, formless, qualitatively devoid of any qualities and that sort of thing.
The other main difference is the concept of karma or karmic effects. In Eastern religions, we deeply believe in the effects of karma or cause and effect. Here in the US, I think people don't necessarily emphasize that. But I think when we pass, we have to experience a stage in which we reveal how we did in our past lives. And then we determine what kind of spiritual lessons to learn when we reincarnate. So that's kind of a sense of cause and effect. This is actually natural law, as stated in the book.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of those principles possibly harken back to Hermetic law. I think of the seven main principles in the Egyptian Thoth or Hermetic law. You mentioned law of cause and effect, the law of correspondence, mentalism, polarity, rhythm, vibration, gender, all that sort of thing. It sounds like a lot of that is actually recycled in Michel's text. How old were you when you solicited him out before he passed away, out of curiosity? When did that? Could you talk a little bit about that exploration and when you went to go track him down?
Yes, I was in my 30s. After I read the book, I really couldn't put the book down because it actually answered everything I wanted to know about the paranormal, about the stories in the Bible, the events happened in the past, and also the warnings that the ETs give us. I wanted to know more because in the book, in the postscript, it says there are far more incredible things that Michel, wasn't allowed to write in the book because we were far from understanding them. That got me extremely curious. I wanted to ask him in person what else he knew, but wasn't allowed to write in the book. So I searched him out, found that he was living in Vietnam at that time, but I couldn't get his exact address. I found a website in which a tourist met him accidentally and took a picture of his bungalow. So I printed that picture out and I flew to the city in Vietnam and showed the picture of the bungalow to the local taxi driver, asking the taxi driver to take me there. At the second try, he took me to the right location. But Michelle wasn't very happy to see me. He was pretty kind of annoyed at my visit. That was a little bit disappointing. But then, as I befriended him and offered help in approaching or following up with a Chinese publisher, he kind of mentioned to me that I could visit him for the second time after I get the book published in China. So that's how things went.
Why was he in Vietnam? How's a Frenchman end up in Vietnam out of curiosity in his latter years?
Well, after he came back from the planet Theoba, he had an emotional breakdown because the planet Theoba is just like a paradise. Everything is so perfect. But when he came back to Earth, he saw many wars and many conflicts, the politicians lying to the public. He was really disappointed and he wanted to go back. And then he was having a hard time convincing people what he saw, witnessed, and experienced was true. Most people didn't believe him. And he also had a divorce. So because of this, he had a psychological breakdown. And someone suggested him to live in a different environment to really help him to recover the psychological trauma. And so that's why he moved to Vietnam, a country in which he found to like a lot.
Now, in this book, I think in a prior podcast, I think you had suggested that it has somewhat become a prophetic piece in the sense that there were several things in the book that had been written obviously years ago that now seem to have bore fruit in some sense. What in that book, in your estimation, has been, in a sense, prophetic?
So the book was written, the event happened in 1987. The
Okay.
book was written in 1989 and got it published in 1993. So way before internet went to Australia and became popular over there. And it talked about a disinfection process in which the ET used when he entered their spacecraft. The ETs used yellow light and blue light to disinfect him. And then years after the book was published, Harvard Medical School had a research paper indicating that certain wavelengths of blue light have antibacterial, antiviral effects. And then a few years after, there's also another peer-reviewed paper indicating that certain wavelengths of yellow light also have antibacterial effect. So that's one thing. And the other is that the book talks about life on Mars. It talks about back 1.35 million years ago, on Mars, there were people who lived there. But because the core of Mars cooled down, it no longer had the electromagnetic force to capture the atmosphere. So that's why Mars became like a desert. But in the past, there were people who were highly spiritual on Mars. And it actually coincides with, I don't know if you know, Ingo Swann, who remote viewed Mars and saw structures, artificial structures on Mars. The book also talks about the ET bases on the far side of the moon, way ahead of the idea that there may be artificial structures on the backside of the moon. And the book actually explains how the ET stations came from, like how they were built. and for what purposes. So this is a prophetic in a sense. Another thing is that the book also talks about the Great Pyramid of Egypt being an energy center, not a tomb for the pharaohs. And just a few months ago, there's evidence that there are subterranean or underground structures
Right.
beneath the Great Pyramid of Egypt, further supporting that it is an energy center, not a tomb for the pharaohs. So a lot of facts like that. Also, the book talks about Project Westward, why the project failed, and why there's a tomb of Jesus in Japan. And a lot of people don't know about it. And Michelle never traveled to Japan, never had internet access while he was in Australia. So this is some of the things that people will need to think about. And why and how he could have known this if he didn't have such a real encounter with the ETs.
Did he? I'm real curious now. Did he give you any insight with your conversations, encounters with him, about anything that was actually, as you just previously said, omitted from the book because humanity proper wasn't necessarily ready for it? Did he disclose anything like that to you off record, or, and if so, are you able to share any of it, or maybe he didn't really delve into that? I don't know.
Yeah, he told me what that is during my second trip, and that I gave a lot of hints and clues in my article titled "The Second Coming of Jesus Christ: What You Need to Do to Be Prepared of It." So I compared this book to be the modern version of the Book of Enoch. If you know the Book of Enoch, it was written because Enoch was taken by the Jehovah's, the Theubans, in other words, the gods or angels of gods. And 40 or 80 years after, the great grandson of Enoch, Noah, was told to build the ark. And we are also at a critical moment of time in which we have to make the right decisions. Otherwise, we are going to be facing a catastrophe. However, the book also says the future depends on our actions, our collective actions. So this is why I've been so dedicated in promoting the messages in the book, because the more people who are awakened, the more people who can make the right decisions to rise up against tyrannies in the world. And the book really talks about who is running everything behind the scenes.
Sam, do you think that the ETs have warned us about past events and maybe upcoming things in the future that we should be concerned about?
Not in the book, but Michelle told me personally.
Is there anything that you could share with us?
I can share you just one thing. Is that during my second trip, and I was with him and Michelle, and we were watching TV, and it was back in 2018 during the second term, the first term of Donald Trump. So Michelle suddenly asked me a question. He said, "Samuel, what do you think about Donald Trump?" And you know, like it's a very controversial topic, even for Americans. So I didn't really want to offend him. So I gave him a very neutral answer. I said, I think Donald Trump was doing his best. What do you think about him? So I asked him back. And then he said, I think he's going to get assassinated. So this is his response. I did not really ask him further because I was more curious about who is running everything behind the scenes. I asked him who, the book talks about the financiers, the cabal, or and then I asked him who are the people who run everything behind the scenes, and he told me that the ETs told him that there are 12 families who ran everything behind the scenes, and I asked him which 12 families? Can you just tell me the names? And he said that the ETs didn't tell him, but he personally suspected that the Catholic Church was one of them. It's not from the ETs, it's his personal opinion. So I can share with you that a lot of the things he said turned out to be true after my research. If you read the book, The Community of 300 by Dr. John Coleman, you're going to realize, yeah, that politicians come and go, presidents come and go, but the secretaries of state, they're actually not elected by the people. They're elected by a small group of the members of the Committee of 300.
They're selected, not elected. Yeah.
Yes, selected. Yes.
This is real curious now because now we're getting a little bit into sort of speculative politics, and I noticed, it's interesting. You mentioned you talked a little bit about race theory on some of your podcasts. I had listened to a handful of them prior to this interview, and you had suggested that, of course, there's these different races, the yellow people, the brown people, and so on. In particularly, though, the Hebrews or the Jews seem to be in the literature, in common, everyday colloquial speech and so on, to be different than the rest of humanity, even though they're only 2% of the world population, but yet somehow they hold a rather statistically disproportionate number of these positions of power, whether they be financiers, intellectuals, politicians, and so forth. What's going on there from a hierarchical perspective? What is going on from a qualitative perspective that allows them and affords them into these positions of hegemony over the rest of humanity? What's your intuition on it, or your opinion based on any smattering of facts that you might have stitched together, that sort of thing?
I'm going to do my best to explain. This is a very, very interesting and complicated concept. I would strongly encourage people to read a book to learn about the history of the different races of people, including the Hebrews. So the blacks, the yellows, the Caucasians, and the ancestors of the Polynesians or Native Americans, they all came from different planets originally. But they came from the same category of planet, which is category 1 planet, like Earth. But the Hebrews came accidentally. So they came from a higher level, a higher category of planet, a category 3 planet called Hebra. So they were more spiritual and more intelligent compared to the people on Earth originally. And they came here about 12,000 years ago, much later than the blacks and the yellows, the Caucasians, and the rest of us. So because they came from originally a category 3 planet, they had more electrons in their astral bodies. That means they had more mental powers, mental agility, and more intuition or gut feelings than people who come from category 1 planet. So this is why, the reason that they were chosen by the Theubans or by the ETs is because they went to Egypt in the first period of time. In the very beginning of the period of time, everything went well, but then later the Pharaoh enslaved them, preventing them to develop their spirituality. So this is why the ETs felt that the highly spiritual people were suppressed by the pharaohs. They needed to be liberated. So that's when Exodus occurred. So they had Moses to be the leader and then leading the Hebrews out of Egypt to escape from the evil rules of the pharaohs. And statistically, Jewish people account only for about 0.2% of world population, but they account for 22% of the older Nobel Prize winners. And they have a lot of very excellent financiers, scientists, and sportsmen, and also business people for a reason, because they are more spiritual. They kind of they have more mental power, mental ability to use their intuition or gut feelings, and they're more dedicated. And also, I know there are a lot of conspiracy theories that say that Jewish people control the world, And I can tell you that some of the wealthiest people are Jewish people, but for the group of financiers that control the world, although there are Jewish people in it, not every one of them is Jewish. And I think they're being used as a scapegoat because if you look at all the different movements in the US, a lot of them are really financed or supported by the Rockefellers. But the Rockefellers are not Jewish people. And I think the Jewish people are just used as a scapegoat and targeted by others to really divide us. And also, if you read the book 334 or 1,000 Lies, you are going to realize that there's a group of people who use psychic abilities to divide us and conquer us and cause divisions. For example, they supported the KKK in the US in the past, while at the same time also supporting anti-racism movement. So they supported both sides of the conflict.
Controlled opposition through manipulation.
Yes.
Where did you get the fact you mentioned the astral body and having more electrons in it? Where's that information coming from?
It's in the book Field of Prophecy, and also in one of the lectures that Michel Desmarquet gave in Australia.
I wonder if that can be, obviously nothing's been done to actually corroborate that through any scientific study. I just, through the principles of grounding and general health, I think a lot of us know here listening, that access to electrons in general is a good thing. That is, if you have a bad or poor health, or you have a high degree of inflammation, the book Grounding literally is predicated on taking your bare feet and stepping on the earth or a natural substance, and consequently you take up free electrons from the earth and your inflammatory state decreases. So that's a very interesting concept, because there's probably a lot to that. And I just wish it were grounded in something a little bit more factual or scientific, as opposed to a lecture statement.
Let me give you like a few other points. And if you really look it up, you can find out that Jewish people, they have longer longevities than the rest of us. And they have unique genes as well, or genetic diseases too, because they rarely intermarry, even nowadays. Like they don't normally intermarry unless that's the exception. And also, I can explain a little further why that's the case, because on Category 1 planet, our astral body is distributed into 9 different people. So for example, like we have our higher self, and then each higher self distributes itself to 9 different people. But on Category 3 planet, in which the Hebrews came from, the higher self distributes itself to 7 other people. So each person has more electrons in terms of the astral body. So that means they have more mental powers. And this is why in the Old Testament of the Bible, you're going to read that the Hebrews used to live 900 years or 800 years. Mm-hmm. But gradually, as they adapt into the local environment, the longevity kind of decreased.
Wait, so you're saying that the rest of us have access to 9? How did you say that again? 9 people?
So we have our higher self, and the higher self distributes itself to 9 different people on Earth for a Category 1 planet.
Okay, when you say our astral body distributes itself to 9 other people, you mean that we interpenetrate and interrelate from an astral perspective, overlap?
Yes. Not the astral, but the higher self distributes itself to 9 different people in the form of astral bodies of the 9 different people. Yes.
And you're saying the Hebrews, did you say how many? 7?
7. So the higher self distributes on Category 3 planet itself into 7 different people.
Oh, 7 different people.
Yes.
So how's that? I guess maybe the math. I don't know. I guess 7 is superior to 9. Is that what we're
Um,
saying?
So, for example, if you distribute everything into 9 different people, then each person gets a smaller portion than if you distribute that into 7 different people.
Okay. And that where's that information coming from? Where's your source for that? Out of curiosity.
The ET is told Michel de Marquet.
Okay. So it's in this book. All right.
Yes.
I didn't know if it came from some other text with, the sheaths of the body. A lot of these ancient traditions, obviously, you have the chakra systems and the sheath systems and so on. I didn't know if some of that was coming from them. But the electron thing is just fascinating to me because it is grounded in science. And if you have access to free electrons, you're in pretty good shape, typically speaking. But that's super, super duper interesting, though. And it kind of makes a little bit of sense.
Samuel, is there a connection between ET technology and psychic ability?
Yes, the ET is from Theoba, so they live on Category 9 planet. So their higher self distributes itself into one person. So that means they have more mental power than the Hebrews, not to mention us. So that means they have all these psychic abilities of Christ who performed miracles. Like they're able to communicate through telepathy or levitate or materialize or manifest objects. So they're able to do everything we can imagine. And if you have a lot of electrons, you have you're going to have more psychic abilities than others. So this is why, like in the other book, 334 Lives, the author really kind of got the electrons from a different person and then accumulated more psychic abilities on the way. But that's really not a good way to do that because he tortured the person to death in order to do that. We can do that naturally. So if you really want to have the mental power of the Hebrews or the Jewish people, you can meditate because through meditation, you can actually connect to your higher self and get more electrons from your higher self to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how that's possible. A lot of that, like for instance, it's interesting. I imagine you've unpacked quite a bit in your exploration, as a lot of us have that are interested in these things. What's your opinion of eating or not eating, or something as radical as breatharianism, or subsisting off of the early morning sun, for instance? Like there's an entire community, as you probably know, that purports to not consume food and just exist on water and sunlight.
Right.
I've never done that. I fasted quite a few times and extensively. Like my longest fast, NPO fast or nothing by mouth was, I think I might have shared this with you guys, was like 7 days where I didn't consume anything, including liquids. And this is after many, many years of doing smaller fasts. So my body was habituated to go a little bit deeper. But what are your thoughts on that, about procuring or transmuting energy that isn't necessarily dense like the everyday, day-to-day meals that we consume?
There are people in China who can do that. The Taoist masters, they can get energy from the sun, from the air, or from the environment. They don't need to eat or drink at all if they practice it. And actually, that's pretty good for their health. And I think it's doable. It's doable, but in modern world, it's really difficult to do that because you have to focus on making money and you
Culture, right?
yeah. And in order to do that, you have to meditate. You have to really learn how to make the energy flow through the microcosmic circulation that the Chinese Taoist masters know about. But it's doable. And I think once you do that, you're able to practice levitation. And actually, a friend of mine in the Bay Area in San Francisco, he was able to levitate when he was young. But then he got into making money and becoming like a engineer, and he lost the ability to levitate anymore.
Interesting. Do you do anything interesting in terms of practices other than classic meditative practices?
You know, I have been until just a few months ago really focused on into making a living because I have a family to support. Just recently, I started to meditate, and I found that to be extremely helpful in activating my immune system, and also to make myself feel much better. So that's my personal journey, and I think I'm going to meditate more and to have as much mental power as I can, just like the Jewish people.
Interesting. Do you fast at all? Do you have any experience with fasting?
That I try to do that, but my wife is against it.
She's
She
against
doesn't really understand this.
What's
What's the best way to meditate? And for how long should you do it?
Oh, there was a question asked. What's the best way to meditate, in your opinion?
The best way to meditate is to sit in a lotus position, like crossing your legs, and then to really form a pyramid structure of field in which you just let everything go and try to empty your mind. It's going to be hard to do in the very beginning, but gradually you're going to have less thoughts, and then just focus on your breath and slowly breathe in and breathe out, and just be in total relaxation state. And I think that's the best way to meditate. It's better to meditate in front of a tree under morning sun, and because you absorb the energy of nature.
For how long should you meditate?
As long as possible.
Mhm.
2 hours. Yeah.
Wow. They say that to stand barefoot by a tree and hug a tree or something.
I think that's the electron thing. I think we soak them up like a sponge.
That really works.
If you don't have a substance, a foreign substance, a man-made artificial substance with it, which precludes electronic transport, that's why you're barefoot or skin is probably the best way. You know, you've translated, I think, a couple books.
Only one other book.
What is
334 Lies.
Oh, okay, all right. Did you go English to Mandarin or
No, German into English.
German to English? Okay, and when
But
was?
I have to warn everyone because that book is really disturbing, has a lot of descriptions of the initiation rituals that they perform. Is highly kind of violent and gruesome and not recommended for the people who are not initiated, people who don't understand the psychic abilities or spirituality.
Who's the author on 334 Lies?
Is a former chair of a secret society that was founded in Germany. It's a very dangerous and very violent secret society. It's actually the book is actually the opposite of the book Field of Prophecy. It's an evil book, the book of the devil.
Satanic Contrast. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Oh wow. This is a fascinating conversation here. Any thoughts on the immediate future? Let's say within the next year or two that you feel that is very important with the ever so burgeoning and evolving artificial intelligence and all the fears that kind of surround that, and with the commoner and the word on the street, so to speak, of people being upset of possibly being replaced by robotics and artificial intelligence and neural networks and all that sort of thing?
I think the best way to counter it is to start a grassroots movement and to make people be aware of the dangers that the artificial intelligence may cause on humanity and potential dangers. At the same time, artificial intelligence can be used to improve our spirituality as well, but most people don't realize that. So I think the best way is to start a grassroots movement. A lot of people rely on the government or the media, but if you really look at history, great revolutions always come from the mass, the people, never from the politicians or the top-down approach. The revolutions in China succeeded in the rural parts of China in the very beginning. So are other revolutions in other parts of the world. So I think we need to motivate or mobilize the people, especially those in rural parts of the country, and then to really wake them up. Because otherwise, I think if we wait on the government, nothing is going to happen.
Mm. Okay. I want to dive a little bit deeper based on that. What is your notion of a soul? And based on your response, do you feel that this artificial intelligence, these large language models and so on that are rapidly developing in their acuity in terms of executing, binary Boolean logistical processes, logic, for instance, do you believe at some point they can be instantiated with what we define ourselves as having a soul?
No, souls are unique because souls can be extremely flexible and creative, and it can perform a lot of the psychic feats that we may not necessarily realize or believe in. But AI cannot do that. Souls can connect to each other. This is why we have people who can read people's minds. But AI cannot do that, no matter how intelligent they are.
Okay, that's always a question on my mind because there's a lot of people in the population, people like your Ray Kurzweils and some of these other tech leaders, and a lot of very intelligent people for that matter, that feel that at one point or some point they may transcend us and even come to embody what we consider to be unique about ourselves, which is that notion of a soul. I agree with you. I don't think that's possible for a lot of different reasons. I know you.
But,
go ahead.
But he's right on one point. The timing of the point of singularity, and I think he's absolutely right on that.
And what do you mean by that? If you could unpack that, what do you mean by the timing of the singularity?
Big Bang.
Yeah.
Well, I would suggest people do the research on that and to really learn more about it. I won't be able to. I don't want to spoil it.
That's okay. I mean, my notion, doing similar things that you've obviously spent many, many years doing as well, is that there's a physics principle. You can also use the term in just common everyday parlance called transduction or transducement, which is the idea that what makes us unique is we're not a closed system. We're layered, and we're layered into dimensions that we don't really know anything about. Mm-hmm. And there's exchanges of information going back and forth. It's almost like an alternating current. And so we're pulling out energy, if you will, that's informing and constantly changing whatever it is that we consider ourselves to be from a substantive perspective. And I don't believe that can be replicated by artificial intelligence. There's something that evades an appropriate definition. To life is such a difficult thing to define, and we have limited terms and language that seems to try to narrow that down, but I don't think I think you could make an argument that biology even trumps physics when you actually unpack it, because it's so strange and bizarre. And there's just something about it. Like the ancients even considered the origins of life originating with mineral formations like quartz crystals or different substances of that nature, these self-repeating crystalline patterns and so on that we don't quite understand how they come to form. It probably has something to do with sound and environment, cymatics, and that sort of thing. But I don't know. Is any other interesting speculations on soul? What exactly that is, or what it might be, or
Yeah.
is that what's evolving within us, so to speak?
Yeah. So human beings and ETs are unique compared to animals or plants or like rocks. So when the creator created everything, it actually used 4 different forces to create everything in the universe. And the last force, the number 4 force, is actually spirituality. So when it created human beings and ETs, it actually inserted a tiny portion of itself to each one of our astral bodies. So what happened was that first, it actually sent out cosmic rays or cosmic eggs that formed the chakras. And the chakras formed auras. And the auras formed physical bodies. So this is how human beings were created. And so this is why, like when people ask, like, who came first, chicken or egg? It's none. It's not. It's neither. It's the cosmic egg or cosmic rays that created everything. The creator wants to experience everything through our physical bodies. So we are actually spiritual beings having a physical experience because the creator is a pure spirit, doesn't have a physical body. So this is why when we have challenges, we should look inside for answers, and so that we can find the solutions by connecting us to the creator through our higher self directly, without having to go through the church or the media or the politicians, and for that matter. And as we evolve, our souls get more purified, so we can move up the ladder to live on category 2 or category 3 planet. So this is the evolution of the souls.
Okay, very well put. Very interesting.
Sammy, what about time machine development? Is that something we should be concerned about, you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting subject because according to this book, the ETs have been really giving us hints about how to develop a time machine. It actually says that when a planet is born, there's a cocoon or psychosphere that records everything that happens on the planet at a speed 7 times the speed of light. So when you match the vibrational frequency of the cocoon, which is 7 times the speed of light, you can actually access what happened in the past. So when you do that, you're going to be shown a holographic film that appears to be like a real scenario, but you cannot change anything because you're just an observer. You are not the player in the film. You are not the actor. You are the observer. So we cannot really change the past because the past appears to be like a film. And we can actually see the probabilities of the future. I say probabilities because the real future depends on our actions, our collective consciousness. So we determine our future ourselves. So this is why I've been pushing so hard in promoting messages in the book.
Yeah, I always find that difficult to contrast with my Eastern notions of time or no time. Like when people, as you're speaking right now, more in a westernized sense of time, that's always a conundrum in my my thought processes. Because as you know, the Hindus and the Buddhists and the Jains and the Sikhs and so on, their notion of time is not like we speak of it in the West, because they would argue that looking in the past is just another moment in the now.
The new Quantum Leap series on Netflix is pretty good.
It gets pretty psychedelic in terms of the logic of it. It's very difficult to orient when you're trying to talk about that subject, but that's an interesting perspective that you have.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Could you heal yourself from certain diseases or sicknesses?
Well, I think the question is that if you have psychic abilities, are you able to see the issues that you have on yourself, medical issues? I actually ask a lot of psychics, and they say no, because they also have their own challenges they have to respond to or face. So they can tell what the illness others have, but not their own, because they don't want to take advantage of their psychic abilities and not to learn the spiritual lessons that they have to learn. So normally that's the case. The case is no, but there may be some kind of occasional intuitions or gut feelings in which they are giving directions.
Yeah, 'cause I've certainly had my share of health issues the last 4 years.
I think we've all had some issues over the years. Who do you think, which country do you think is in the lead in terms of, I guess, being on the forefront of possibly leaking this UFO phenomenon and extraterrestrials and, just sort of like introducing us to the Galactic Federation, if you will? Is there a country that you suspect is going to be the one to take the lead, or is it going to be more of an international thing, a collaborative effort when it's broken to the masses? Because I would imagine at some point, all this, if this is the case, it's surely going to be brought to light at some point in the future. And then the question is it going to be a collaborative effort on the planet, or is it going to be one or two countries that tend to lead the way with all this?
By asking this question, you're asking which government is
Right.
going to take the lead. I would say not the government, but the people. And I think the government always lags behind the people. So I think, I hope it's going to be the US government, but I don't think that it's going to go anywhere because of the special interest groups, the military defense contractors, or the military industrial complex. It's not going to be China, because I know the Chinese government is focusing on their domestic issues. They don't have time for this. I hope it's going to be the Indians. However, the Indians are also developing their economy. I think it's going to be the people. I think ultimately, when the people push the government to do certain things, the government is going to cave in.
Who would you suggest country-wise is the most spiritually advanced? Would you say it's the Indians or the
Yes.
Hindus, or is that where you would go?
Yes, I
Kind
would.
of figured that. I mean, minus the Jewish, that you have that small group. What's your opinion of the Falun Gong?
Let me first talk about the Indians. I was in India last December, and I really like the Indian people. Most of them are really highly spiritual, and to my surprise, much better than the Chinese, actually. The Falun Gong is actually a very good Qigong practice. I think the leader kind of created this for the benefit of the people. I don't know if the leader himself is very spiritual, but the practice, the Qigong practice, has shown a lot of very positive effects to a lot of people who practiced it. The government is afraid of the Falun Gong movement causing instabilities in China, so that's why they crack down on it. It's a good practice, but I don't know about the leader.
Yeah, I read the book many, many years ago, probably 2.5, 3 decades ago, and the introduction to the Falun Gong Bible, if you will, or primary text. It's there's some things in it that are a little bit fantastical, if you will, which I think, but the Qigong's been around for, you know better than me, many, many, very long time, which is basically energy work or energy practice. It's like a catch-all for things like Tai Chi and things like that. So I don't see why something like that should be persecuted the way it is. At least the way that we read about it here in the West, it sounds like those poor people are going through a really horrific crisis over there. If you're viewed to be a Falun Gong practitioner. So this book, though, it's a very, very interesting book. I perused it. I think I'm going to try to actually sit down and read it verbatim, maybe once or twice. I think that's what you're recommending. It sounds like it was a pretty strong influence on you, though.
It is, with a lot of specific verifiable facts. And don't use, to the audience, don't use AI to summarize the book, because AI isn't going to do a good job.
You can't use AI to summarize much, otherwise it loses its, the potentiality for having an indelible positive effect on you. Are there any other? You mentioned 334 Lies that you helped translate from German to, you said, English. Are there any other books that you find highly influential that you would recommend to the radio listeners that you think are important?
I think the books written by Barbara Brennan are really important and interesting and well researched. The book written by Judith Collins, How to Read and Interpret the Auras, is also a very good book. Dr. Stephen Greer's books are good.
Okay.
And Danny Sheehan's book, People's Advocate, is a very good read, because he was involved in many important cases in U.S. history, including the Iran-Contra case and also the Watergate case. And he actually revealed a lot of insider information in the book, and also about Scientology.
Scientology, we had to throw that in there.
Remote viewings of Scientology, yes.
Samuel, what's your thought on your theory on a parallel universe or adjacent universe to ours?
Yeah, it's a natural phenomenon. So in different locations in the world, for example, the Bermuda Triangle and certain parts of Europe and national parks in the U.S., there are portals or warps that kind of connect us to a parallel universe. So when people, planes, or ships get close to the portals, they get stuck into the portals. So that's the book, Theory of Prophecy, actually explains what would happen if you go inside of a parallel universe. And it's very interesting because there are a lot of very well documented cases in which people just suddenly gone vanish, as researched by David Paulides, a private investigator who did a lot of studies on the people who just gone vanish in the national parks in the U.S. and Canada. And also the ETs use the portals to come in and get out of Earth, so that people wouldn't see them flying around. So they take advantage of the parallel universe, the portals, to appear and disappear. So this is why when you observe the sky or space, you're going to see the UAPs or UFOs frequently come and disappear at a certain location in space.
Do you think that they're watching us or trying to warn us about maybe a future event?
They only do that when it is absolutely necessary. They don't serve the meal on the plate, because It's just like parents teaching their children how to solve a mathematical problem. They guide the children. They don't just give the answers directly, because the children have to solve the problems on their own in order to really learn how to solve the problems. So we human beings on Earth have to go through the struggling process on our own in order to survive on Earth for the long term.
I'm real curious, just to get personal a little bit again, so we can understand you as a person, obviously. How do you fall into law? Do you go into law because you're compelled by family, parents, or the expediency of needing to have a career, or that sort of thing? Or are there other topics that when you were younger you wish you would have maybe put a little bit of effort in or studied a little bit more with? Would you have went into a different field of study maybe to make a living other than law? Because it seems like obviously you love to do this stuff, even though your wife might be a little bit, a little bit concerned at times. But tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, in the very beginning, I was an economics major and financial analysis major. That's because I wanted to earn as much money as possible by playing the stock market or financial markets. I studied all the ways to get profits from Warren Buffett and Jim Rogers, George Soros, and all the investment gurus. And then internet bubble came in 2001. I couldn't find a job. So I became a Chinese tutor and also a Chinese translator. Along the way, I made a lot of money, but my real interest was to explore the unknown, the paranormal. My wife foresaw AI and the effects it would cause on my profession. Even though as a certified court interpreter, my ability to interpret in courts will not be affected because of no one is going to take responsibility if AI makes mistakes. It's like a union thing as well. But she believes that being a lawyer is going to make more money for the family. So that's why I became a lawyer. And the main reason, my reason, is to be licensed. And when I speak about the paranormal, people are going to listen a little bit more and take myself more seriously.
Otherwise, you'd be under the Bodhi tree with a Buddha, right?
Yes.
Don't want that, Sam.
This is a very fascinating conversation. Is there anything you want to talk about particularly that we didn't really hit on? There's tons of stuff and directions to go, but
we can go so many directions. I mean, we
could just go
he's
everywhere.
well rounded.
Yeah, I think people need to realize that our physical body is actually affected by our auras, and the auras are affected by the chakras, and the chakras are affected by our mindset. So if you get your mindset correctly, you're going to influence positively to your chakras and then to your auras and your physical body. So if you know an aura reader, a person who can see the colors of auras, then you're in great luck, because you're able to really foretell what kind of physical illness you're going to have down the road, and you're going to know who is telling the truth, who is lying on stage. So I think people should focus their attention on auras, and also using colors to affect auras and your mindset. There are a lot of studies on that. For example, the color green can help with your migraines. And also the color pink can make you lose your muscle strength by 30% or so. And actually a football coach in the University of Iowa knew about this, Coach Hayden, and he painted the locker rooms of the visiting teams into pink color, and he never lost a home game. So the studies of colors is actually really important.
Yeah, that all kind of makes sense. I remember reading a lot about colorology myself years ago, and it was fascinating. When you look at the primary colors, that particular frequency has a qualitative effect. Like I remember I was a student, and every time you buy a couple highlighters, and all the highlighters are yellow, or at least the original highlighters. And yellow is the color of memory, for example. You're more inclined to remember something that's per se highlighted or backdropped by the color yellow for whatever reasons. It has more of a potent effect on, leaving a mark on your mind to retain information. And it's always interesting to me because the sunlight is essentially that color, and it's kind of a, or the color black, for instance. You look at a piece of coal. Coal's black because it holds everything. It has the most potential in it. So, the void isn't void at all. It's diffuse with all that is in terms of potentiality.
I actually had an aura reader on the show some years ago because I've been doing this
Mm-hmm.
this show for 12 years now, and I've had some interesting people on.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting stuff. But you're right, though. Color is it's definitely something to heed or pay attention to, and it just affects. Like if you wear red shirts all the time, and you're in a monastery, it might agitate people, because the color red it's an energetic quality to it. That's why people buy red Corvettes, because it's a very highly energetic color, and it's stimulating color.
That's why you got a red car, Mom.
Yeah, or light blue. They used to paint all the hospital hallways light blue because it has a calming effect, like the ocean or the sky. It just tends to, quell the sympathetic nervous system or whatever.
You have a question,
So.
My neighbor has a lot black curtains hanging. What
Yes.
did you paint a room black? Ooh.
Well, I myself, I gotta leave you guys because I gotta hit the road. I have to pick up some kids here pretty soon. It's been fun talking to you, Samuel.
And if you know any other opportunities for me to share my messages, for example, in events or other podcasts, please also let me know because I have to get the words out.
Absolutely. You were a pleasure to speak with. I know me and Tim loved you.
Oh, yeah, it was an awesome time. I mean, I really
yeah.
enjoyed it. Samuel, is there anything else that you'd like to say or promote there while we close the show out?
Yes, so when the time comes, realize that we, the people, are more powerful than the financiers. So through nonviolent resistance, we can rise up against tyrannies in the world, just like what Gandhi did in India. So if you really think about this, every minute, every hour we stop working for them, they will lose hundreds of millions of dollars. We will lose very little. But when we act together, collectively, have a strike, then using nonviolent resistance, they're going to cave into our demands. So that's the way to go.
Very well said. I agree with that. The banks are the devil, in my opinion.
Yeah.
These cartels and these central banks, the International Monetary Fund, fiat money, all this sort of these shell games that they have us captured in is a real crime, against humanity. But that's a different topic. But we could
another show.
We could spend many hours.
Like Chip used to say, that's for another show.
Unpacking the demerits of modern day finances and banking. So,
great.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam, so much for coming on. I really
Yes.
Stay on.
Thank you.
I have questions, Tim. It's not 9:00 yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 8:30. Oh, I gotta pick up my kids.
Okay, Sam. Is that anything else you'd like to promote or say?
No, just check out the book because the book is really important
Get down.
in allowing people to have the knowledge necessary for them to make the right decisions in the future.
All right, Sam. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, my pleasure as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.